It was the coldest winter I had ever lived through, and when a stray pregnant dog came to my door, she was shaking so badly she could barely stand. Snow covered her fur, her belly was heavy, she was close to giving birth. She didn't bark, she didn't move, she just stood there in the snow like she already knew this was her last place to go. Before this story begins, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because what happened after I opened that door changed my life forever. Winter doesn't start with snow, it starts with silence, the kind that settles into your bones long before the cold does. I noticed it the night the wind stopped sounding angry and started sounding patient, like it knew it had time, like it wasn't in a hurry anymore. I wake before the light comes, not because I want to, but because my body refuses to sleep past the ache. My chest feels tight when I sit up. Not pain exactly, just pressure. Like the air is heavier in winter, and breathing costs more than it used to. I wait, count my breaths. When the room stops tilting, I swing my legs over the side of the bed. The floor is cold enough to remind me where I am. This cabin wasn't built to last forever. Neither was I. We've both been standing longer than anyone expected. I pull on my coat and let it hang open for a moment before buttoning it. A small habit, a useless rebellion. The stove is already low, just red enough to keep the pipes from complaining. I kneel, add a piece of wood, and watch the flame catch like it's thinking about whether I'm worth the effort. Outside the world is gone, not hidden, gone. The window is nothing but white movement, snow sliding sideways, erasing the lines between sky and ground. If I didn't know better, I'd think the earth had finally decided to wipe itself clean. No road, no trees, no distance, just winter, pressed right up against the glass. I eat slowly, bread first, then soup, same order every morning. I don't rush food anymore. Rushing assumes there's somewhere to be. The silence comes back when I'm done. It always does. At first I used to fight it. I talked to myself, left the radio on, pretended the voices belonged to people who knew me. Eventually, I learned the truth. Noise doesn't cure loneliness. It just delays it. So I sit there listening to the stove breathe and let the quiet do what it wants. That's when I hear it. Not clearly, not all at once, just enough to make my hand stop halfway to the cup. A sound that doesn't fit. It slips in between the wind and the creaking wood, thin and strained, like something trying not to disappear. I tell myself it's nothing. The storm plays tricks. It always has. I've mistaken trees for footsteps before, shadows for movement. Winter knows how to use your mind against you. I take another breath. Then it comes again. Closer this time. Not loud, not demanding, just there. I feel it before I understand it. The tightening in my chest, the way my shoulders lift, like my body already knows what my mind is trying to avoid. I stand up slowly. The door looks farther away than it should. I don't tell myself heroic things. I don't think about doing the right thing. Those words belong to people who still believe the world keeps score. All I think is this: if I ignore it, I will hear it in my head forever. The cold hits me the second I open the door, sharp and clean, stealing the air straight out of my lungs. Snow whips across my face like sand. I step outside, and the door closes behind me with a sound that feels final, heavier than wood should sound. Each step sinks deep. The snow grabs at my legs, dragging, slowing, reminding me how easy it would be to stop. The wind pushes from the side, trying to turn me around. I keep walking. The sound leads me toward the trees. I see her before I fully understand what I'm looking at. She's low to the ground, half collapsed, fur clotted with snow and ice. At first I think she's dead. Then her sides move, fast, shallow, like breathing hurts. She's digging at the frozen earth with her front paws, scraping uselessly, panic replacing strength. She looks up when she notices me. No bark, no growl, just eyes. They're wide, dark, and far too tired for fear. Her body is thin, but her belly is heavy, stretched tight beneath matted fur. The truth lands all at once, hard enough to knock the air out of me. She's pregnant, and she's alone. The wind howls between us, tearing at her fur, at my coat, at everything that isn't nailed down. She lowers her head again and keeps digging, even though it's pointless, even though the ground won't give. She isn't trying to survive tomorrow. She's trying to survive now. I stand there longer than I should, long enough for the cold to creep past my gloves, into my fingers, long enough to understand exactly what this means. Winter didn't bring her here by accident, and it didn't bring her here because I was ready. It brought her here because winter doesn't ask permission, and for the first time in a long while, I realized something with terrifying clarity. Whatever happens next, this is no longer just my winter. I don't move right away. That's the truth people never like in stories. They imagine the moment of choice as something sharp and fast, like instinct snapping into place. It isn't. Not for me. It stretches, it presses, it asks questions you don't want to answer. The wind keeps screaming past us, filling the space where words would go if either of us had any. Snow keeps crawling over her back, collecting in the hollows of her ribs. She's still digging, slower now, each scrape weaker than the last. The sound of it, paw against frozen ground, gets under my skin in a way the cold never has. I look back at the cabin. It's only a few dozen steps away, but in winter distance lies. The door looks small, fragile, like something that could vanish if I turn my back too long. Inside that door is heat, food, what little safety I have left. Inside that door is the agreement I've made with this season. I survive quietly and it leaves me alone. Bringing her inside breaks that agreement. I know the math without doing it. I've been doing winter math my whole life. One stove, one body that already struggles to stay warm, one set of hands that shake when they get tired. Two lives don't fit easily into that equation. She looks up again. This time her eyes don't search. They settle on me, steady, exhausted, as if she's already run out of options, and I'm simply the last thing standing in front of her. There's no pleading in her face, no hope, just a dull, stubborn refusal to lie down and disappear. I feel something tighten behind my ribs. I tell myself it's stupid, that she's an animal, that nature doesn't need my interference, that winter has always been honest about what it does. These are the kinds of thoughts you lean on when you're afraid of what kindness might cost you. The wind answers by gusting harder, knocking me a half step sideways. That's when I notice her shaking has changed. It isn't just cold anymore, it's deeper, rhythmic. Her breathing stutters, then catches. She lets out a low sound, not loud enough to fight the storm, but heavy enough that I feel it in my chest. I've seen that sound before. Not in a dog, in people. Pain doesn't announce itself when it's real. It compresses, it pulls inward, it demands attention without asking for permission. She lowers herself into the shallow pit she's made, sides heaving, claws digging uselessly at ice. The snow is already filling the hole faster than she can clear it. Her body is working against a world that has no intention of meeting her halfway. I realize then what she's trying to do. She isn't looking for shelter. She's trying to give birth here. The thought lands hard and doesn't soften. I picture it without meaning to. The storm, the cold, the ground stealing heat faster than life can create it. I know how this ends. Winter has shown me this ending 100 times in different forms. It's efficient, unapologetic. My hands curl into fists inside my gloves. I turn away from her and walk back toward the cabin. Each step feels wrong, heavy, like I'm dragging something behind me that isn't visible. I tell myself I'm getting supplies. I tell myself I'll come back. Lies are easier when they're temporary. Inside, the heat hits my face like a memory. The stove glows low and steady. The blanket is folded over the chair where I left it, thick, worn, still holding the shape of my shoulders from last night. That blanket has weight. History. It's the difference between waking up stiff and not waking up at all. I stand there, staring at it. I think about how cold the floor feels even with boots on, about how much wood is left stacked by the wall, about how long the nights have been getting, about how tired I've been feeling lately, even on mornings when I've done nothing at all. This is the moment winter wants, the pause, because pauses are where people talk themselves out of things they'll regret not doing. Another sound cuts through the walls, fainter now. I don't put the blanket back, I grab it. When I step outside again, the cold feels sharper, angrier, like it knows I've chosen a side. The wind fights me harder this time, shoving snow into my collar, down my sleeves. I push through it, boots slipping, heart pounding in a way it hasn't in years. She barely reacts when I reach her. That scares me more than panic would have. I kneel, ignoring the way the cold bites through my knees, and spread the blanket around her, wrapping it as carefully as I can. My hands are clumsy, old. I keep apologizing out loud without realizing it, my voice lost instantly to the storm. The blanket dwarfs her, swallows her small frame in layers of warmth she didn't have seconds ago. She lets out a long breath, something easing just enough that I see it. I don't carry her. I know my limits. Instead, I clear a path with my boots, stamping the snow down, guiding her step by step toward the cabin. She stumbles, stops, tries to lie down again. I block her gently, using my body as a wall, urging her forward with soft sounds I haven't used since I forgot who they were for. By the time we reach the door, my arms are burning and my breath is ragged. I open it wide. Heat spills out into the storm, wasted, reckless. She hesitates at the threshold, nostrils flaring, eyes darting. Inside smells like smoke, old wood and loneliness. Not welcoming, just real. I step back. I don't force her. After a long moment, she crosses the line on her own. The door closes behind us, and as the storm howls outside, shut out for the first time all night, I understand something with absolute certainty. There is no going back to the way this winter was supposed to end. The cabin feels different the moment the door closes, like the walls have leaned in to listen. The storm is still there, raging just inches beyond the wood, but its voice is muffled now, reduced to a low, angry breathing that presses against the cracks and fails to get through. Heat leaks out anyway. I can feel it escaping, rising toward the ceiling, slipping through gaps I never bothered to seal because there was never a reason to. There is a reason now. Every degree matters. Every second matters. And standing there watching the dog take her first unsure steps across my floor, I understand how fragile this decision really is. This isn't rescue, it's a gamble, and winter always collects its debts. She doesn't move far, just a few steps inside, enough to get off the snow, then she lowers herself carefully as if the act of lying down might break something important. Her breathing is fast, shallow, her sides pulling hard with each inhale. Snow melts off her fur and darkens the floor beneath her, leaving a small, spreading shape that looks almost like a shadow. I've seen men breathe like that. I've heard that sound in rooms that smelled of antiseptic and fear. It's the sound of a body doing too much work with too little strength. I close the door all the way and slide the bolt into place. The click is loud in the quiet, final in a way that makes my chest tighten. There is no outside anymore. There is only this room, this heat, and the life we're both trying not to lose. I move slowly, deliberately. Sudden motions feel wrong, like they might shatter whatever fragile balance is holding us together. I drag the chair closer to the stove and add another piece of wood, watching the flame flare up, greedy, eager. I don't add more than one. I can't afford to. I kneel by the dog again, adjusting the blanket around her, tucking it beneath her belly as best I can. My fingers are stiff, clumsy, and I curse them under my breath. She watches me the whole time, eyes tracking every movement, not fearful now, just intensely aware. Trust, I realize, isn't something she's offering. It's something she's postponing, waiting to see if I give her a reason to take it back. The pain comes in waves. I see it in the way her body tenses, in the low sound that slips out of her throat before she can stop it. She tries to stand, fails, then tries again, stubborn in a way that feels familiar. I sit back on my heels and let her struggle. There are things you don't interrupt. There are fights you don't step into unless you're asked. This is one of them. All I can do is make the space warmer, quieter, safer than the world outside ever intended it to be. Minutes stretch, or hours. Time loses its shape in moments like this. The stove ticks as it settles. The wind hammers the walls, furious at being locked out. I become aware of my own breathing again, how shallow it's gotten, how my chest aches from the cold I carried in with me. I don't sit down. Sitting down would mean resting, and resting would mean noticing how tired I am. Instead, I keep moving. I refill the kettle, set it near the stove. I push a towel closer to her. I do small, useless things that make me feel like I'm not just waiting. She cries out again, sharper this time, and the sound cuts through me. I find myself talking to her without thinking, low and steady, words without meaning, just tone. I tell her she's not alone. I tell her she's doing fine. I tell her the cabin is warm, that the storm can't reach her here. I don't know if she understands any of it. I only know that her breathing slows a fraction when I speak, and that feels like enough. Another wave hits her harder than the last. Her body tightens, then relaxes, then tightens again, and I see the effort draining out of her, leaving exhaustion behind. She's been carrying life for weeks, maybe months, and now winter is asking her to do the hardest part with nothing left to give. I tear a piece of bread in half without realizing it and push one half toward her. She sniffs it, turns her head away. I eat the other half slowly, chewing until it feels like work, forcing myself to swallow because someone here has to keep their strength. The air grows thick with heat and the smell of wet fur and smoke. My eyes burn. My hands tremble when I pour water into a cup. I wrap my coat tighter around myself, but don't sit closer to the stove. I've already stolen enough warmth just by being alive in the same room. I don't know how long this will take, and I don't know what it will cost. I only know that once, a long time ago, I was there when something new came into the world. And the room had felt just like this, quiet, heavy, fragile, balanced on the edge between loss and miracle. Outside, the storm screams. Inside, life fights. And standing there, watching her endure pain that would have broken something weaker, I realize I'm no longer waiting for winter to end. I'm waiting for proof that this night wasn't a mistake. The night stretches longer than it has any right to. The stove burns lower, then flares again when I feed it another piece of wood. I measure each log with my eyes before I commit to it, weighing heat against tomorrow, against the nights after that. Winter has trained me to think this way, but tonight the math keeps slipping. The numbers refuse to settle. Every choice feels temporary, like the night itself is holding its breath, waiting to see what I'll give up next. She doesn't scream. That surprises me. I've seen pain make noise before, loud and desperate, like it wants witnesses. Hers turns inward. It tightens her body, pulls her muscles into hard lines, steals the strength from her legs. She pants, pauses, pants again. Each breath looks like work. Each pause looks like it might be the last one she has the strength for. I stay close, but not too close. Close enough that she can see me when she lifts her head. Far enough that she doesn't feel cornered. Trust is a fragile thing in winter. You break it once, and it never comes back the same. Time loses all meaning. I could swear hours pass between one breath and the next. My knees ache from standing, but I don't sit. I lean against the table instead, shifting my weight when the pain crawls too high. My hands shake when I pour water from the kettle. I spill some. I don't bother wiping it up. The floor has seen worse nights than this. Her body tenses again, harder this time. A sound slips out of her throat before she can stop it, low and raw. I feel it in my chest, like a hand squeezing from the inside. I move without thinking, kneeling beside her, one hand hovering uselessly in the air because I don't know where to put it. I've never been good at touching things that might break. It's all right, I hear myself say. The words surprise me. They sound older than I am, worn thin from use. I don't know who I'm saying them for. Maybe for her, maybe for myself. The storm slams into the cabin again, a sudden violent gust that rattles the windows hard enough to make me flinch. Snow hisses against the walls. For a moment I imagine the roof lifting clean off, heat and light spilling out into the night like an offering. Winter would take it without hesitation. She gasps, then strains, her whole body shaking now. I see the effort drain out of her face, replaced by something frighteningly close to resignation. She's tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind that creeps into the bones and starts whispering about stopping. I push another log into the stove. The flame flares bright, almost angry, and heat rushes out sharp enough to sting my skin. I stand there too long, soaking it in, until dizziness creeps up behind my eyes. I step back, steadying myself against the wall. My heart is pounding too fast now, faster than it should. I take a slow breath, then another. Not yet, I think. Not tonight. When I turn back to her, I see it. The moment shifts. There's a change in the room, subtle but unmistakable, like the air itself has leaned forward. Her body tightens in a way that feels different from the waves before. More focused, more urgent. She cries out, louder this time, and the sound slices through the cabin, sharp enough to silence even the storm for a heartbeat. I kneel beside her again, close enough now that I can feel the heat radiating off her body. My hands finally find purpose, moving the blanket, clearing space. I talk to her constantly now, my voice low and steady, filling the gaps where fear might grow. I don't know what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. The rhythm is what counts. The first puppy arrives in a rush of motion and breath and wet warmth, small and impossibly fragile. For a second, it doesn't move. My heart drops so hard it feels like it might tear something loose inside me. Then it wriggles. A tiny sound escapes it, barely more than a vibration, but it's enough. Enough to pull the air back into my lungs, enough to make my hands tremble worse than before. She turns immediately, instinct taking over where strength runs out. She licks the puppy fiercely, desperately, coaxing life into it with a determination that humbles me. I sit back on my heels, suddenly unsure where to put myself, like I've stumbled into something sacred without permission. There isn't much time to think. Another wave hits her, stronger than the last. She pants, strains, endures. The night narrows to this small circle of heat and breath and effort. Outside, winter throws everything it has at the cabin, furious now, relentless. Inside, life answers back in silence and stubbornness. The second puppy comes harder, slower. She cries out again, and this time the sound carries something close to panic. I feel my own body answering it. Heart racing, vision tunneling. I force myself to stay steady, to keep my voice calm, to keep the room from filling with fear. When the second puppy finally slips free and begins to move, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Two small lives, pressed close to her warmth, shaking, breathing, real. She curls her body around them instinctively, trying to shield them from everything, even though there is nothing left in the room to fear but time. She licks them, nudges them closer, her movements slower now, exhaustion pulling at her hard. I ease back, lowering myself into the chair by the stove for the first time all night. The moment I sit, the weight hits me, my legs throb, my chest burns, my hands won't stop shaking. The room feels too warm, then suddenly not warm enough at all. I watch the fire and realize how low it's gotten. I calculate how much wood is left without meaning to. How many hours it might last. How many bodies it's heating now. The puppies squeak softly as they find their place against her belly. She lifts her head and looks at me. Not with fear, not with suspicion, with something quieter, something that feels dangerously close to gratitude. I hold her gaze for a long moment, the stove crackling behind me, the storm screaming its defeat outside the walls. And in that fragile, flickering light, I understand the truth I've been avoiding since I opened the door. This night has already taken more from me than I'm willing to admit. And it isn't finished yet. Morning arrives without ceremony. No sunrise breaks through the window, no golden light, just a thinning of the dark, a softening of the world from black to grey, like winter is reluctantly loosening its grip. The storm hasn't stopped completely, but it has lost its anger. The wind no longer screams. It moves now in long, tired breaths, sliding past the cabin instead of trying to tear it apart. I wake in the chair by the stove. At least I think I wake. It feels more like surfacing. My head lifts slowly, as if gravity has doubled while I wasn't looking. Every part of me aches, the deep kind that settles into joints and doesn't leave when you move. My chest is tight again, tighter than before. Each breath takes effort. I pause after the first one, waiting for the second to follow. It does. Barely. The fire has burned down to a low red eye, watching me. The room is cooler now, the kind of cool that creeps instead of bites. I should add wood. I know that. The thought forms clearly, sensibly, and then drifts away without my body responding to it. I look toward the floor. She's still there, curled around the puppies, her body forming a careful circle, every line of her posture shaped toward protection. The blanket is wrapped around them all, heavy and dark with melted snow and long hours of use. The puppies are pressed close to her belly, small shapes moving in short, determined bursts. One of them squeaks, a thin sound that cuts through the quiet sharper than any alarm ever could. They're alive. The realization lands gently, almost shyly, like it's afraid to disturb something. I watch them for a long moment, counting their breaths without meaning to. In, out, in, out. Life doing what life does, even when it shouldn't have the chance. She lifts her head when she senses me watching. Her eyes meet mine across the room. They're different now. Clearer, steadier. The exhaustion is still there, heavy as ever, but something else sits beneath it. Relief, maybe, or simply the absence of panic. She doesn't move away. She doesn't tense. She just looks at me, then lowers her head again, resting her chin lightly near the puppies, as if to remind me that this is where she belongs. I try to stand. The world tilts immediately, sharp and sudden. I grip the edge of the table and wait for it to settle, but it doesn't. My heart is beating too fast again, fluttering in a way that feels wrong, like it's lost the rhythm it's followed my whole life. I sink back into the chair before my legs can decide to give out on their own. The stove ticks softly as it cools. I realize I'm cold. Not the surface kind. Not the kind you fix with gloves or another log on the fire. This cold is deeper. It feels like it's coming from inside me, spreading outward instead of the other way around. I pull my coat tighter, but it doesn't help. It feels thin now. Insufficient. I look at the pile of wood by the wall. There's enough left for one more long burn. Maybe 2 short ones. Enough to make it through the morning if I'm careful. Enough to last if I'm alone. I look back at the floor, at her, at them. The choice settles quietly, already made. I don't reach for the wood. Instead, I lean forward and ease the coat off my shoulders. My fingers fumble with the buttons. They don't want to work the way they used to. I manage it eventually and let the coat slide down, folding it with more care than I've given anything in years. The floor is colder without it. I push myself up slowly and cross the room one careful step at a time, each movement measured, deliberate. She watches me, head lifting slightly, but she doesn't move away. When I kneel, the cold bites straight through my knees, sharp enough to make my vision blur at the edges. I drape the coat gently over the blanket, tucking it around the puppies, adding one more layer between them and the world. They wriggle closer to the warmth instinctively, tiny bodies pressing into the space I've given them. She lets out a soft sound, not a cry, not a whine, something quieter, something that feels like understanding. I sit back on my heels, breathing harder now, the room swimming faintly around me. My chest burns with each breath. I count them again, the way I did earlier. 1, 2, 3, I stop at 5 and rest. I stop at... The cabin is very still. The storm outside has softened to a whisper, like it's finally accepted that it won't win this one. Light seeps in through the window, thin and grey, revealing the small details I missed in the dark. The curve of the puppy's backs, the rise and fall of her breathing, the way frost has crept along the edges of the glass, despite everything. I feel tired in a way that feels final, not heavy, not desperate, just complete. I return to the chair by the stove and lower myself into it carefully. My hands rest in my lap. They look older than they did yesterday, paler, quieter. The fire glows faintly, barely holding on. I let it. My breathing slows. The room blurs, then sharpens again. I look at them one last time. They are warm. They are alive. And as the cold finally reaches a place it's been trying to get to all night, I understand something with perfect clarity. This winter will not take everything. Not today. I don't notice the moment when my body stops fighting. There's no line you cross, no sound, no warning. One breath is there, and the next one takes longer to arrive, like it's thinking about whether it's worth the effort. The cold inside me has settled now, quiet and steady, no longer sharp. It feels less like freezing and more like drifting, the way water carries you when you stop swimming. The fire goes out behind my eyes before it goes out in the stove. I'm aware of the cabin in pieces, the chair beneath me, the weight of my hands in my lap, the faint smell of smoke that has soaked into the walls over decades. These things don't feel distant. They feel familiar, like old friends sitting nearby, saying nothing because nothing needs to be said anymore. My chest tightens once more, hard enough to make me lean forward slightly. I wait for it to ease. It doesn't. The pressure spreads, then fades into something dull and heavy, like a door closing slowly instead of slamming shut. I think of winters I've known. Not this one, others. Years ago, when my hands were steady and my back didn't argue with me every morning. When cold meant inconvenience, not negotiation. I think of voices I haven't heard in a long time, faces that only exist clearly when I don't try too hard to remember them. I don't feel afraid. That surprises me. Fear takes energy, and whatever energy I had left was spent sometime during the night, feeding the fire, opening the door, choosing not to turn away. What's left now is lighter, quieter, like the world has finally stopped asking things of me. Across the room I hear a sound, soft, thin, alive. A puppy squeaks, then another answers it. The sounds are clumsy and uncoordinated, but they carry something fierce inside them. Hunger, need, tomorrow. She shifts slightly, adjusting her body around them, her instinct sharper than exhaustion, her warmth wrapping tighter without thought. Good, I think. The word doesn't come out of my mouth. It doesn't need to. The cabin feels warmer near the floor now, even as it cools everywhere else. The coat and the blanket are doing their work. The puppies press closer together, small bodies finding the heat they were promised. She lowers her head and licks them, slow and deliberate, grounding herself in the rhythm of care. I lean back in the chair. My vision narrows, not darkening, just simplifying. The edges of the room blur until only what matters remains. Firelight, low and red, movement on the floor, breath, sound, life continuing without me. I wonder briefly how long it will be before someone comes by. A ranger, a neighbor checking the road, someone following tracks in the snow once the storm fully clears. The thought passes without concern. Timing doesn't belong to me anymore. Another breath comes, then another. Each one feels farther away. My hands grow numb in my lap. The cold has reached them fully now, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't rush. It simply settles, the way snow does when the wind finally stops. She lifts her head and looks at me. Just once. Our eyes meet across the quiet cabin. There is no confusion in hers, no fear, only awareness. She holds my gaze for a long moment, then lowers her head again, turning her body just enough to shield the puppies more completely. The message is clear, instinctive, final. You can rest now. I've got them. My chest rises one last time. The breath that follows is shallow, incomplete, more memory than air. The pressure eases. The cold finishes what it started, not violently, not cruelly, just completely. The storm outside has stopped. Hours later, maybe days, the door will open again. Cold air will rush in, curious and indifferent. Footsteps will pause. Someone will speak my name, or not. It won't matter. What will matter is this. On the floor of a quiet cabin in the middle of winter, a dog and her puppies will be alive, warm, breathing, and winter for once will have been forced to leave something behind.